All right. Well, I'm glad you guys are here. Good to see you. So, one of the big subjects we've been talking about this week and probably 2 weeks or maybe longer has been about frequencies. So, I've looked very deeply into frequencies. I love frequencies. In the past, and I've done some broadcasts with John Tussey, and who does all these frequencies of creation, frequencies of the periodic elements, and music like that. He's a tremendous keyboard player, and his mentor was David Van Koevering, if you're familiar with him. So John Tussey was kind of handed down his wisdom and knowledge, and now he's done all these recordings, and we've done conferences with him over in New Orleans, and he's just an amazing. And we've talked about some other people out there too, but I want to know. I'm always a researcher, so I want to know more about frequencies. So, kind of fascinating to me. Albert Einstein said that everything in life is a vibration. Everything in life is a vibration. So the law of vibration states that everything in the universe, including atoms, objects, living things, is in constant motion and vibrates at a specific frequency. So I began to look into things. I was into essential oils with Young Living for a while, and I still do them. But every every oil has a specific frequency. I think rose is the highest frequency of of the essential oils. How many of you guys do essential oils? And I love them because I see results. I want to tap into the frequencies of heaven, and that is actually the only music I listen to now. I used to love worship music, and I used to love soaking music. Now I find that I'm really drawn to, and I can tap into the Lord more easily, almost immediately when I put on a specific frequency. And you guys remember Royal Rife? He was back in somewhere between early 1900s. He invented, well, he's the kind of what is leading to med beds. And med beds are all based on frequency. And the government shut him down. And now a lot of these frequency devices are figuring out, and people, the companies that are behind them, are figuring out that frequencies do really work, and they're able to get past the government where he didn't. So here we go with some different things that we're seeing powerful results in. So the law also states, the law of vibration states that everything in the universe is made of energy. Well, we can add energy. Quantum physics says we can add energy, power, and light. Light is frequency, and it vibrates at different frequencies. So the law of frequency applies to atoms, objects, and living beings and things, and energy that we emit through thoughts and feelings and motion and nature. It's just interesting that we see in the Word where Yahweh considers everything living beings. Talks about the trees and the seas, and hear the beast and they'll speak to you. Listen to the birds of the air and they'll speak to you. The ocean will speak to you. And my particular favorite is the fish in the sea will speak to you. I think I need to engage more talking to the fish in the sea so I can catch them a little. Like, where are you guys at? I'm just tapping into the frequencies of heaven in a more powerful way, uh, because I believe when we match the frequency of something, we can either rule over it or we can be destroyed by it. You remember back, some of you are old enough to see that they used to show it in high school. There was this bridge in Washington State, I believe, that just started waving and had cars. You remember that, Diana? That's been a long time ago, but that thing was all about frequencies, all about vibration. That bridge just began to wave like that, like it was a toy or something, and so that was kind of a situation where they didn't account for the frequencies of nature to do what it did. And so the quality or the timbre of sound produced by a vibrating object is dependent upon the natural frequencies of sound waves produced by the objects. So we're beginning to see, I'm beginning to understand how I can more effectively engage and partner and co-create with a specific frequency. John understands with create partnering with the frequencies of a particular spot of land. He's engaged the frequencies there. He's engaging the land to find out what frequency is resting upon this land. Is it due to an iniquity, or is it due to a blessing of the Lord? Or what frequency is calling out for what to plant here? Isn't that right, John?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you want to add anything in there? It's pretty
Well,
remarkable what you're seeing and doing.
I actually that reminds me to continue doing what we've started, because it's so easy sometimes to fall into natural, so-called natural problems need natural solutions. And sometimes we go back and say, why isn't this working? And we're banging our heads against the wall. And then, like, oh, okay, there's some part of creation that actually wants to step forward and speak, or there's something that's been done on this land, or there's a frequency of something that needs to be introduced with a certain plant or flower or something that Yahweh wants to bring forth on that land. So it's exciting to partner, but it's also a bit of a ride, because every property is different. We encounter different setup almost every week. We're on different people's properties. And that's one more thought is, when I started out, because we work with plants and landscape, I thought, well, this is all just about playing with plants. And I found out that it's not just about playing with plants. Plants are always attached to people, and people are always attached to a place. But it really, place actually, that goes the other way. Places are attached to people or have been attached to people. So really, it always boils down to what's going on with individuals. That's a lot of that.
Yeah, yeah, and that's so cool. Coming back to the way Yahweh considers everything a living being, not only will the rocks cry out, so there's a vibrational frequency there that a rock that we think is an inanimate object is really not. And and so everything has sound, everything has a level of vibration, and everything can be heard because God considers those everything created as a living being. It's like I was thinking today, I said, like, well, what does heaven look like? You hear songs and talks about the blades of grass are living beings and everything. There's no death in heaven. So on earth as it is in heaven, we open up the realms of our perception to everything is living here on earth, and we recreate or co-create heaven on earth, bring forth things that seem dead and bring them into a living being because we're a life-giving spirit. And so everything has sound and on its own level of vibration. For example, gamma brain waves fall in the frequency of 32 to 40. Gamma brain waves are found in every part of the brain and are involved in problem solving and circulation. So some of the other body frequencies are pretty amazing, and each organ has also has a specific musical note attached to it. Isn't that interesting? I just found out that today. Well, you look at the solfeggio frequencies. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, that song. Those are the seven solfeggio frequencies that are living beings, what the Lord showed me. So everything has a frequency, and when we engage its purpose for each one of those frequencies, we can come in alignment with those frequencies and bring healing or restoration or new birth or whatever we God's desire is. So some of the frequency of the human body is 62 to 78 megahertz. The heart is 67 to 70. The liver is 55 to 60. The pancreas is 60 to 80. And disease starts at 68 megahertz. So I don't know where you can, yeah, where you can buy a machine that detects what frequency your pancreas or your liver or disease sets in. I think you should just know from revelation from the Father and use wisdom. And once we understand how to co-create with frequencies, we'll come to the place where we're able to do that much more effectively and more powerfully. Now, I want to go to some little mystic stuff that I found before, and I was thinking about it, so I went to Enoch Flight School and found it on there. But let's see. This is pretty cool. Rav Dov Burpenson said this: our words are more powerful than we think. We are co-creators either for light or for darkness. Watch what you say, even if joking around. I'll give you an example. One time I was picking up Charlie Champ and Monday Martin up in Reno. We had them out there like every quarter. And I'd pick them up in Sacramento at the airport there, and we'd drive over the mountains over, dropping into Reno. And we were just declaring over, fire on the mountain, fire on the mountain, fire, 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 all the way back for about 2 hours. And we met in a casino downtown, the very top floor that overlooked the mountain range up above Reno. And a wildfire started in the mountains that night, and we could see from our meeting room. And we go, oh, and this the Lord just showed me, even my joking and us stating things like that was a co-creative process. And here a wildfire breaks out. And so he said, there is no word in Hebrew for thing. Objects are called devarim, or words. Objects are called words. An object is a specific vibration. Everything or subject is an expression of a variant frequency. Things are mere externalized manifestations of internal cosmic vibrations. Everything. The wall you're sitting beside, or the table. I think I tried to find it today. We are slowed down energy. Our bodies are slowed down energy. And, even science is proving now that blood is congealed light. So there's a frequency in the blood. Blood is congealed light. And so there's a lot of articles you can find on that. Things are externalized manifestations of internal cosmic vibrations. So we're in sync with internal cosmic vibrations that we think are happening out there and all around us. We're actually in sync with those vibrations because our body contains all those things internally. The manifestations happen within us. So creation goes on to say, creation begins with a subtle spiritual vibration and movement within the infinite creator, which then gives rise to a physical vibration of energy, which is eventually solidified in matter. That's co-creating. That's where we come into a co-creation. When we're looking at things, we have to consider them as words, as living beings, because that's the way Yahweh thinks about them. Let me read that again. Creation begins with a subtle vibration and movement within the infinite creator, or within us, since as he is, so am I in this world. So that vibration, that movement begins within me, which then gives rise to a physical vibration of energy, which is eventually solidified into matter. At every moment, every physical time-space expression is an externalized manifestation of a spiritual vibration. So everything has a spiritual, good or bad, vibration to it. Man below is a reflection of the above. The power of human speech below mimics the creative power of divine speech. He said, "Let there be light." That was a frequency going out that's still creating today. Divine speech creates reality, and human speech qualifies reality, calling it good or bad. Kind of like if I'm thinking AI. You know, a lot of people are saying AI is globalized, generalized as evil. They don't understand they're using Google search and it's AI. They don't understand they're using Zoom and it's AI based. They don't understand the banking system is all AI. Artificial intelligence is built into just about everything we see and do today. It's like I was also thinking today, it's like it only takes 3 generations, 3 to 4 generations for something to completely change. All you have to do is, 40 years is considered a biblical generation. So your grandma and grandpa lived a very simple life and they can't handle even a cell phone today. They can't handle a Zoom meeting. Most of them can't because we're in this industrial revolution and progressing through these gifts to men. So all this stuff is materializing, but it's only taken like 3 or 4 generations for this to happen. But I think it's exponentially increased now because we're in this time of I don't know. I don't want to say the latter days. I just want to say increase is what God is doing, and He's bringing it to every sphere of existence. And so we define good or bad, and what God is doing. We can look at any scale of anything that's going on in the world. If we, I was talking to Gil the other day, and I said, Gil, it's wonderful because I think AI is a gift, part of God gives gifts to men. It's the heart and the intent of the user that can make it good or bad, and that's just exactly what we're talking about here. But what if things go wrong? Am I going to step back and say, well, this is evil, and do nothing about it? I don't know how many. I know every one of you here tonight has seen people on Facebook just say, this is evil, this is evil, this is evil. Well, why don't you do something about it? You're a governmental, legislative, and judicial son. If you have a heart for that thing, ask Yahweh if He's given you a mandate, a governing mandate over that particular situation, like the things in Israel right now. Who has a mandate to address that? Who has the mandate to govern over that? Rather than just say that's evil, that's wicked. But the ecclesia is rising up. The governing, legislative, and judicial sons is rising up, and we're being awakened to handle, to govern over, and to co-create or to tear down whatever God has assigned to us. Let me finish with this particular statement. On a deeper level, our words and how we language our thoughts is a process of continually creating the world around us. So we're co-creators. In other words, things are to us what we say they are. That's pretty simple. Just as we have power to create with speech, we have the equivalent ability to destroy through speech. Our words, which are projections and vibrations, alter the inner frequency of the universe for good and for the opposite. So I love that. I found where I can attach my notes to the Patreon recording. I can attach. I got 4 pages of notes on this one, and I'll put it on the recording on the Patreon group. So you go into things like Nikola Tesla talked about the numbers, the significance of the numbers of 3, 6, and 9. I put a recent article with a video on the Enoch Flight School about this person relating that to frequencies. Some of the solfeggio frequencies, like 369, 963, are the 2 solfeggio frequencies he's talking about, and the impact of what they do. I'm not going to go over this. I'll put it all in the in the notes. But we're beginning to see some powerful things are coming along that we can align ourselves with for greater effect with what we're governing over. If we find the frequency, like that bridge, you know, if we find that frequency to come up above that frequency of of something that we're able to rule over it more powerfully. I looked up something today and I heard before, but linen has the frequency of 5,000. Did you know that? Linen has a frequency of 5,000. Regular, it's called a super fabric. Organic cotton has 110 megahertz. Polyester around 10 megahertz. A diseased person generally around 15 megahertz. Wool is also up there around 5,000 megahertz too. So guess who was wrapped in linen cloth? Why? Because they knew that frequency was a super fabric that has the highest frequency of any fabric created. So I found this one day and I said, I'm gonna go buy me some linen. So I've got my linen pants on right now. It actually says the higher frequency of a fabric, the more energy it gives to the body. Now I don't, I can't feel it really, but I believe that's true because it's 50 times the frequency of my human body, which is 68 to 72. And so if I wear linen or if I wear wool, I'm raising the frequency, and there should be more energy manifesting in my body. And so interesting. And I'm just sharing some of those things that I found: frequency of foods, frequency of music, frequency of the periodic elements, frequency of creation, is all interesting to look at and see how I fit in, and wherever God has mandated me to govern, how I need to understand, like John needs to understand the frequencies of the land where he's building or creating these wonderful gardens, that when he does that, he's tapping into a co-creative process with God's here, match the frequency or destroy this frequency first. It's like the call of Jeremiah, called to root out, overthrow, tear down, and destroy, but you're also called to build and to plant. We're seeing a lot of tear down, root out, overthrow, and destroy, but it doesn't have the build and to plant in it. A lot of prophetic words don't. And so anything we do, whether it's prophetic or not, is part of our prophetic lifestyle or just our lifestyle. When we're governing, we have to sometimes tear down, root out, overthrow, and destroy before we can build and to plant according to God's divine blueprint and pattern that engages with the frequencies of creation. Isn't that interesting? I just really, really love the study of frequencies, and there's just tons and tons of articles. Resonating frequencies is a whole different ball game that kind of talks about the same kind of stuff but uses different numbers. I don't understand that. I'm not an expert in it by any means, but I find it more interesting, like just the music I listen to. I was finding a Royal Rife frequency for eczema video that I watched, and it's like, man, it was just good. It felt like life to me. It felt like, it was giving life to me instead of just words of a song. It had no words to it. It had a frequency. And that's the kind of music I'm enjoying listening to. I listen to a lot of the solfeggio frequencies. Some of you know that I had an encounter with frequency 174, and God showed me it was a living being. And in the end of the second time I had an encounter with 174, 174 was restored back to its original estate, his primordial estate. So I don't know what happened, but I knew I came out of this hidden place in the dream, and when I did, 174 was being restored to its original estate. And so I was doing something behind the scenes in the spirit that I have no idea what I was doing. I was governing in that realm to restore 174, and it was all hidden. I have no idea what I was doing. But there, I've said before, there in my dreams, I'm in my divine nature. Here, I don't know how to do it, so I'm in my human nature. One of these days, my divine nature and human nature will come together, and I'll know how to govern more effectively in those things that He has for me to govern creation. So, amen. That's all I have, and I just want to share that with you. Again, I'll attach those notes. There's a lot more in there from the 3, 6, and the 9. I went over most of everything else, but there's just tons of research you can do if you're kind of a research person. That I especially like the music. That's me being a drummer, been a musician all my life, and when I've tapped into the frequencies, it just expanded everything. Now I'm not just listening to music, I'm listening to the frequencies of creation that God used, the solfeggio frequencies that that brought everything together into a place of union and oneness, and powerful place for me to be to begin to rule and reign from that perspective.